Hello everybody and welcome back to the Railway and welcome back to another review. Goodness, it seems like a very long time since I've done a review. It seems like I've done everything but reviews recently. So it's nice to get back into the swing of things and doing what I like best, which is opening up locos, talking about them for an age and then getting them running. And this one is a particularly great one. I did review this one quite a while ago now, but I thought I'd like to do it again now that I have the camera equipment and the lighting to do it justice. So that's great. So this is the LMS 4P or 1000 class. I think I did a little research. The number's 1000 and I think that's the class apparently. It's a 440, so obviously I'm going to love it. And this one's got quite a few bells and whistles on it. As you can see on the box, well maybe you can't see, I don't know, the glare might be pretty bad. It says with smoke, which is cool. Sadly the box is a little damaged, so we can't look at the end of the box. I do quite a good box repair with Photoshop and some thick card. But yeah, I didn't realise this one was bad, otherwise I would have done it before the review. However, there is a nice, well, not so much nice, but there is a useful little handwritten description on the side of the box which says LMS 4P 440 Maroon 1000, which I think sums this up pretty well. So without talking any more, let's get her unboxed, because I realise it's really not ideal seeing her through this glare, and that is only a picture, of course. And this is a very strange type of packaging. It sort of comes in two pieces of polystyrene, which sandwich together like this. Ta-da! And I do quite like that packaging actually. Obviously it's a bit old and crusty now, but generally that idea is good because you don't have to force the logo out of any boxes or anything like that. Now the first thing I'll point out is this centre wheel is missing from the tender, and it was last time I think, and I was intending to replace it then. I've still not got around to it. The reason I got rid of it was because it was jammed, and now I just leave them if they jam. I think it's the 9F that has a very tough wheel in the centre, but I just leave it in there for the sake of it. But yeah, so you'll have to excuse that. Of course these are the driving wheels, so it doesn't matter that it's not there. But yeah, I need to get some new wheels for that certainly, which is annoying. We'll keep the tender out now anyway, and the logo of course here, number 1000, the beautiful 440 in gorgeous LMS livery, which is great, and it's also got a little cab detail, but obviously we'll come on to that later. But yeah, without any further ado then, let's put her up onto the white background and I'll try and get some decent close-ups of her, and I'll show you what she's got in store for us, okay? So there she is, of course, looking fabulous as always, and it is quite an elegant loco, I think. It's quite grand, isn't it, like a lot of the LMS ones are, you know, so that passengers can travel in style. And I really do, I mean, this is quite an older locomotive, obviously, not as old as some, of course, but, you know, quite old. But considering that, there is quite a lot of additional detail glued on there. Most obviously is the plastic, well, presumably they are safety valves, but there's also a brass whistle next to it, which gives it quite some variety, I think. You know, it's not all plastic, it's not all metal. A nice mix is what I prefer, so I like that. But there's also the separately fitted handrails, which are great, and there's all various plastic parts glued on here and there, which do just bring it out a little bit and make it a little bit more realistic. And also, there's a lot of rivets. The cab is a gorgeous cab, it really is one of the best cabs from locos of this age, and on the roof there is plenty of rivets. There is rivets everywhere, and I think that's about the only place where there is lots of rivets, but of course it is a very highly visible place when you're running around on a layout, so I suppose that's fair enough. I do like the front of the boiler on this one, I will just say. It is detailed, of course. It's got all the usual guff, it's got rivets and added details and a nice shapely chimney and whatnot, but I do just think the livery in particular here is fantastic. You've got that yellow stripe that goes all the way around the boiler, which is followed just by a black painted chimney and smoke box area. And you've also got this sort of yellow stripe that goes all the way along the loco, starting around there at the front buffer beam and going right the way back, jumping the gap and onto the tender and all the way around. And I think it's just great. It just makes the loco look so streamlined and you know, uniform. It just looks great. Of course, number 1000 then on the side of the cab, in, you know, fairly sharp text as well, same as the LMS. It does look a little bit less crisp than some of the modern ones perhaps, but it certainly isn't bad. Right, let's take a look inside the cab then. It's pretty nice inside there. There's not a lot of detail in terms of the paintwork, it is just gold. but I think that's the way I prefer it to be, as opposed to not having any painted detail at all. So it's not really that bad at all, and amazingly it does have some glazed windows at the front there, which is even more amazing considering the fact that you can't really see them unless you're looking at the loco head on like this. But I think, you know, attention to detail like that is exactly what us modelers look for in locos like this. Before we move on then, you've also got some quite nice linkage on this example. If I just move her back for a second, you can see it there. A lot of the 440s that I have, they don't have any valve gear or anything here. They probably just have the one piece of linkage that connects the two sets of wheels, and that's all. So yeah, I think that's quite a nice touch, definitely. And yeah, we'll move on to the tender then. The tender is pretty good. It's pretty hefty, considering the size of the loco. If you look at them together, it is a really big tender. I'll start with the most obvious thing first then, and the thing that's under the most scrutiny, by me certainly, which is the coal load. It is one of those coal loads which is alright, but not exemplary. It is quite chunky. Having said that, it's not glossy, and it's not terribly unrealistic, so it isn't too bad. Unfortunately, you can't remove it, so you're stuck with it, but you know, I'd never want to remove them anyway. I'm not interested in complete realism. You know, being as that I collect older locos as well, but you know, I just like to have them in their original condition. To me, that's the ultimate collecting experience, I suppose. There is quite a lot of detail on the front of the tender there. I believe there is some coal spilling out of the bunker there, and there's just quite a little bit of moulded detail. It is a shame that it isn't painted, but of course the loco and tender do connect quite closely, so your view of especially the front of the tender is quite restricted, although you can still see the cab quite nicely over the top of the coal in the tender. So that does work very, very nicely. In addition then, when it comes to the tender, the undercarriage is quite large and fairly well detailed. You know, there's quite a few rivets there, and there's the springs and whatnot, and it does help to cover up some of the motorised sections in there. Unfortunately, and it is unfortunate, this is a tender driven locomotive, which normally puts me off 100%, but this one's had a very good service, and luckily it runs very, very well. And also, when they do run well, you've got the added advantage of the fact that she's got the pulling power of a good heavy diesel, because of course they have the same motor in a lot of the old diesels, and with 2 traction tyres they can pull an awful lot. As we may demonstrate today, I'm not sure. Okay, round the back of the tender then, you've got a very nicely detailed buffer beam, and I probably didn't mention that there's one on the front of the loco too. It's got plenty of rivets on it, and of course a separately fitted vacuum pipe. Sadly, one of those buffers does have a little scuff on it, and they are slightly worn, but they are intact, which is a plus for me. And yeah, it's a pretty nice combination, isn't it, of loco and tender. They do look fantastic together. And there is just something about smart locomotives that really, really gets me going. I mean, I do love my 9Fs, my 8Fs, and the freight locos, which are just in black. But there really is just so much more to love about these locos that have got these beautiful paint jobs with the really like artistic and sometimes minimal, but very effective paint jobs. This one especially with the yellow and the maroon, it's just absolutely beautiful. And of course these are big, you know, potentially dangerous machines, but when they're painted up like this, they just look so welcoming, don't they? Which is one of the wonders of steam. So I'm just trying to think if there's anything I've missed out. I will just give you a look at the front of the boiler there, around the smoke box door. Of course you've got the running number 1000 written on there, which does help the detail front. And yeah, I think that just sums it up really. Very well detailed, very smart looking, and an all-rounder really. I think that's all I can say. Okay, so we'll bring it down onto the railway then. Of course, there's no option but to run a nice rake of LMS coaches. Quite a lengthy one as well. As I said, she's quite powerful, and I will be embarrassed if she's not as powerful as I thought. But as far as I know, she is pretty powerful. So let's get her onto the tracks then, and let's give her a good run. Okay? Okay, so there we have it then, the 4P out on the railway, and I've got ready for her a set of 4 LMS coaches, which do look really, really good with her, I must say. And I'm just trying to make the most glamorous train possible to try and capture the grandeur of the LMS. Before we get her coupled up then, I've also got the other 440 D49 loco, beautiful and also similarly glamorous. LNER locomotive with a rake of 5 teak coaches. That looks great as well. That's a fantastic engine, and it really does look great with those coaches. So yeah, it's a miniature 440 day today, I suppose, but yep, that's my favourite, so you'll have to excuse me. Anyway, I'll move the camera then, and we'll try and get a nice coupling shot. Okay, let's give it a try. Alright, so I'm going to try and do this as smoothly as possible. You'll just have to bear in mind that the motor is a Ringfield one, so they're not particularly great at slow speeds. But yeah, let's give it a try. Now this is over the points as well, so we've got to be careful. Yep, little nudge. There we are, got it. And yeah, let's get her off then. Absolutely gorgeous, this one. I really do like this one. Come on, it's all just those points. Of course, she's only got 2 pickups for one of those sides, for one of the rails, so it's not great. But yeah, that's that. And now for the D49 then. And this one is number 245, Lincolnshire, and it's absolutely gorgeous, LNER, like we said. So let's get her going too. There we go, marvellous. Right, let's watch them both go. Oh, she does slow down a bit, but she doesn't wheel slip, which is good, but the motor does just lose a little bit of power. And I would say this D49 is actually an even better runner. It really, really does run well, doesn't it? It's great when you can get them to run nicely, it just doesn't happen very often. Alright, so I'm going to bring these two lovely girls to a stop then. One there, that's the D49. And here comes the 4P, just rounding the final curve. And there she is too. Two gorgeous locos. I've really enjoyed running these and filming them and whatnot. I don't know if you can tell when I'm really fond of one of these locos, because the running session probably goes on for about twice as long. But either way, yeah, there they are. Two gorgeous locos, and hopefully you enjoyed the review of the 4P. She is really great. I know I don't like tender-driven locos, but these two and that 2p that I've got are really, really quite good. But yeah, anyway, that should about do it. Thank you very much for watching, of course. If you enjoyed it and you'd like to see more, you can check out the Facebook and Twitter pages, which are down there below. You can click on them in the description too, if you'd like to, and you can just see some photographs and posts, and you can even get involved yourself if you'd like to, because it's really great, our community, and we should definitely celebrate it as much as we can. But for now, everybody, thank you very much for watching as always. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I will see you very soon for yet another review. Thanks everybody, see you soon.